Hello, my name is Athena. I'm a stand-up comedian, writer, and podcaster, and broadcaster, and all kinds of things. And I'm also a parent, which is great. But every now and again, thank you. We should share that. It's a privilege to be a parent. It really is. However, children do lack conversational skills. They have lots of skills, but conversation is not a skill they have. So for me to fulfill my need for highbrow intellectual stimulation, I invite a mate round every now and again to keep my company. I can't do that because of lockdown. We know the score. Blah blah blah. I've been saying this for the past few weeks now. I can't have people round, but I can meet people over the internet, which is cool. So welcome to my internet, because I own the internet now. Well, for the next half an hour or so. Louise Power, welcome.
Woo! Thank you. Glad to be here, Athena. Thank you.
Thank you for having. I just said thank you for having me on my own podcast. This is how mad lockdown has made me. I don't know anything anymore. Thank you for coming, and it's taken me ages because we spoke about us recording our conversation and putting it out as a podcast ages ago, and I'm only now getting round to it. How have you been since we last spoke? It's been a little while.
I've been all right. I've been good. Don't worry about the ages part, because I just feel like there's no concept of time at the moment. I don't know what day it is sometimes, because the weekends like the weekdays, and the weekdays feel like the weekends. And you know, we've got like shops that would normally be open are closed, and so I think that our concept of time at the moment is a little bit off.
How are you finding that? Because I like it.
I do. Okay, do I like it? I have enjoyed the slowing down. I've definitely benefited from the world just taking a chill and from getting out of the rat race. I have really benefited from that in terms of just little things with like doing stuff for myself, and reading more, doing some creative stuff, and with my son as well. But there is part of me though, Athena, that is ready to just burst into my butterfly self. Like having a taste of socializing with family and friends lately has made me realize, okay, enough now. Like I don't necessarily want it to go back to the very fast and somewhat selfish world we lived in before, but I do want to like socialize now. Without worrying I'm going to get sick.
Is there anything you're doing now? Because you said you're doing some creative things and you're taking time to yourself. Is there anything that you're doing now that you'd like to make sure you continue when lockdown is finally lifted?
Definitely. I'm taking more time to read. So I've like made my bedroom into this like peaceful space to be. And I've got my vision board and I can see that now. And I'm looking at it and I'm sticking more things as day goes by and collecting magazines, and I'm just taking more I forgot how much I enjoyed reading, and I think life was so busy before lockdown that I wasn't really reading. I was reading what I had to if it concerned work or something like that, or if it was like a paper that I was grabbing on my commute. But now I've gone back to like, ordering books that I enjoy and doing a lot of self-development and things like that. So I would definitely love to continue that. I've been spending more quality time with my son. So I feel like we've been sitting down having really more meaningful conversations, real conversations where I'm like, hold on a minute, is this a 7-year-old I'm talking to? Like, like what's happened? Like you suddenly become so mature overnight, and we're just having really meaningful conversations about the world and just things that he's interested in. And I think that what can happen is when you're in the thick of it all the time, it's almost like everything is rushing around. Like my mornings would be rushing around to get him into school. Then I'd have like my day and I'd have my calendar, and most of the time that was blocked out with meetings or things to do. And then in the evening, I'm a single parent, so I'd be like, right, I've got to cook dinner, and then I have to find some time to tidy up as well and do washing. And most of the time, like I just ended up having like, locks inside of my hair or because I just couldn't comb it, or anything to do with self-care and me was like just not happening. Like,
Yeah, it goes out the window when you got the state of my when I had my one, the state of my feet. Oh my gosh. When I finally got my pedicure, she was taking off clovers. That's all I'll say. It was madness because the one thing you can't do if you can't prioritize yourself is take 5 minutes to file your heels down and do your nails, not your toenails. Who has
yes,
time? You
yes.
cannot prioritize that. And they one day I looked at them and it just looked like the San Andreas fault, but like loaded them on my feet. It
Oh
just
my
was horrible. Like they
god!
just it was just, and I'm
I
not particularly,
understand. I
I'm not, I'm not even a particularly like, I'm not a Kardashian or anything, but it was something I used to care about. And then all of a sudden you can't care about that anymore. I want to ask you quickly what you're reading because I love reading. It's something that had to stop doing. It's another thing I couldn't really have the time for when I had my daughter, and I've managed to get back into books. So what kind of stuff have you been reading the past
So
few
I'm
weeks?
reading two books at the moment. So I'm reading Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's a very, very, very popular book, and in some senses, it's sort of if you've heard of the book The Secret, about universal law of attraction and the kind of thinking that we need to entail in terms of attracting those things that we want in our life. So a lot of those books have been based um off of this book itself here, Napoleon Hill. And yeah, Think and Grow Rich is a great book, and it's all about if mastering the secret of true and lasting success. But it's not about money. It says Think and Grow Rich, but it's about enrichment in your thoughts, the thinking process, what it is that you're putting in terms of your delivery for what it is that you want in life. And the other book is She Prays. So it's a 31 journey to confident conversations with God by Debbie Lindell, and it's really nice because you don't have to read the whole book at once. You can read a section. Every day has a piece you can read, and I mean I've got like I'm very spiritually connected. I've got a strong relationship with God, and I think that I know that everyone has got different beliefs, but for me, tapping into my faith and tapping into my Christianity helps me to stay centered, stay focused, and in touch with my being myself. You know.
It sounds like you're really interested in self improvement and growth. Is that a fair thing to say in terms of that's what you look for when you're looking for something to read and something to learn about?
Yes, yes. Those are the things that I enjoy most. Those are the things that get me excited.
And that doesn't surprise me because I know you are an entrepreneur, which is like very common for people who run businesses and startups to be very into self improvement and manifestation. Just because you can't start a business if you don't believe in yourself. It's just impossible. You can be a comedian if you don't believe in yourself. In fact, people will like that. No one likes a cocky comedian, right? But you cannot start a business if you don't believe in yourself. So what came first? Was it like you thought you'd like to start a business and then you realized this was something you needed, or have you always had an interest in these kind of ways of thinking?
Such the chicken or the egg? That is such a good question because what came first? It's like the fight or flight thing, like chicken or egg. Because for me, it was like I've always been interested, but it was my circumstances of becoming a single parent that actually gave me the motivation to take those thoughts and make them a reality. Before that, I I kind of I was able to stay in a safe space, in salaried roles and in jobs that I was quite capable of, but always having at the back of my mind, wanting to take the plunge. But when I became a single mother and my circumstances completely changed, that was it. That was the moment where it was like, it, I think it just gave me the confidence to say, and I had another human being that I wanted to motivate and inspire and do things for in life. So suddenly the thought came into reality, and I was like, right, all the time that I wanted to do this is the time now for me, if I'm not going to do it now, I'm never going to do it. So, and then that's when I started my first entrepreneurial. Well, I wouldn't say my first, because I've always sold things, or or been the sort of person that is interested in business, but really with conviction and saying I am starting something. That's when through adversity became opportunity, I would say.
That's funny because I have a similar journey, not quite as inspiring as having a child. I was in a job where I got done for gross misconduct, and I was like,
Oh,
I've got to get out of this. I've got to get out of this system because it's the saying, the devil makes work for idle thumbs.
yes.
That's exactly what it was, and it really made me realize that it didn't matter how much I was earning and what position I was in and what opportunities were there. Like, if it's not fulfilling, like, you'll find a way to sabotage it, or you'll be unfulfilled, and the energy that you should be putting into something that you like, you put into other things, which I mean, it sounds terrible. It wasn't that bad. It was just silly. But and I didn't. By the way, I kept my job. It was fine in the end.
Yeah.
But it made me think I need to think. Like, I think I got into a stage in my life where I had most things that I had aimed for, and I was still very unfulfilled. And I was a bit confused by that, especially working in the civil service, which is what I was doing at the time. Like, it's a lot of bullshit. It's all very politicized. There's a lot of mediocrity, a
Yeah.
huge amount of it. Most of that mediocrity is above you and earning more money than you.
Yeah.
And I realized it didn't matter how high I got, there will always be someone higher than me who was mediocre, mostly white and mediocre, and that I would still be surrounded by that kind of unfairness. I still wouldn't have any real power because there were just systems that you can't change. And going through that process made me think, I've got to start doing something else with my life. But I didn't get into comedy at that point. At that point, I got into something really different. I got into cycle instruction, and I started teaching people how to ride bikes, which is
Oh,
a
wow.
funny,
I didn't
which
know
is a
that
funny
about
thing to
you.
do. That's what I did for a little while, and I kept it up for a little while, and then I got too busy because I
Love
didn't know what
it.
else to do.
Love that.
And that's really poorly paid. And it's I only did it because there was some government scheme where you could do the course really cheaply. And I thought, well, I love bikes, and I was cycling a lot at the time. So I did the course, and I thought, oh, I can do this, and it was great. But then after that, I was like, I probably need fulfillment and money. So then I just did some other stuff. Can I talk to you about starting your own business? First of all, as a woman, and then as a black woman, purely because I've got a couple of friends who started businesses, and their quest to get investment was just fraught with racism. There's no other way. They would tell me these stories,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't even. I wasn't shocked. Racism never shocks me, but I couldn't believe that they had the resilience to get through it. What was your experience like? Did you have a positive experience of starting a business in
Yeah, I
in
was
this
told. I mean,
environment?
I started my business that I didn't really, when I first set out, I didn't go down the investment route. In fact, I think I was quite naive as to what was out there. It was only quite a few years into to business that I realised about investment, and all of the kinds of things that were open to people, like family houses, and um, different VCs that that were investing in companies and such like. And once I did enter that world, I realized that yes, it was definitely biased and prejudiced, and there there were disparities between the knowers and the people that don't know. Does that make sense? Or the
Yes.
what the in click or whatever. Um, and I was told actually that my business is not investable or scalable, and I should just not do it. I'd like to say that the person that I was speaking to possibly wasn't even racist, but they were just so the systematical racism that they've been raised in would allow them to not think outside of what they know. So they the ingrainment of all of those biases are within them, you know, so deeply that you know it, I think.
Yeah, well, they call it unconscious bias, right? But the problem with the term unconscious bias is people don't really understand how unconscious it is. So if you're aware of your unconscious bias, there's probably loads that you're not aware of, and I think it's becoming a bit of a buzzword now, and people are kind of making surface level changes to their thinking or surface level critiques to how they think, and they're not really getting to the bottom
Of it.
or realizing that we have a lifetime of, from the minute you are born, you are given very specific messages about who has power, who doesn't, who is important, who
Of
doesn't,
course.
literally whose life matters and whose life doesn't. And then you become an adult. So every day of your life, you get to a certain age, and then maybe you hit your 40s, and then a black woman comes to you and says, "I have this idea, and this is my business plan, and these are my slides, and this is my slide deck." And everything that's ever happened to you up to that point informs your opinion of something that should be a neutral and objective opinion. And I think the problem is that we tend to define racism as being very explicit. So we're very good at saying it's bad to throw bananas at football players. If you're in a football match, we're very good at saying, "Oh, you can't say a particular word." But what we're really bad at saying, or really drawing attention to, is patterns of behaviour that don't come from a nefarious intention, because then people get defensive. They'll say, "Well, I'm not racist. My girlfriend's black, or my kids are mixed race, or my teacher's black, or my dentist is Indian." And you're
Yeah.
like, "Well, none of those things tell me you're not racist. What tells me you're not racist is actively involving yourself in understanding what white supremacy is and what systemic racism is, and how those things built up a world to protect certain people and to disempower certain people." And that's really hard. That's all, like, it was really interesting to me when, we had this kind of second wave of the Black Lives Matter movement where everyone was saying, "Right, now you have to read books." It's like, these books are like 400 pages long. They're like academic books, and you've got to
Yeah.
read 20 of them. And are people going to do that? And I don't think we need to read books. What we need to do is we need to somehow distill this information and get it out to
Yeah.
people in more packageable ways. So, for example, in the school system, or in the training we deliver in workplaces, or in the art that we create. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes just listening to No Signal Radio and watching I May Destroy You is going to do more to undo your racism than any book. It's true though.
It's true.
Just
It's
seeing
so true.
that
And you know what? And
achievement
you know what? It's
is
even
the
more.
best thing you can do.
It's even simpler than that in some senses. Have a conversation with somebody. Have a coffee with someone. If your immediate circle isn't looking diverse, then have a conversation with yourself and get out there and find out what's going on in the world. And you will find 9 times out of 10 that most people are ready to have a transparent, very open conversation with you, and most people are as well open to having those uncomfortable conversations. But if it's not broke, don't fix it. And what diversity of thought is about having different conversations with people from different races and ages and backgrounds, and have been culturally aware. And people can't work places and sign up to this. I'm diversity and inclusion, and I believe in equality, and they have this. Any job you get, you sign up to it. But what does it actually mean if you're not implementing that in your life? Where I worked, I was the only black female business owner in a building with about 400 members. Yeah.
How did you find working in that environment where, you're in a place that probably would think of itself as quite progressive, but it's not progressive at all. How did you find that?
I, I had a good experience in the environment. However, because I was able to grow my network and I was able to grow in myself as an entrepreneur, um, but it was obvious, that the environment around me wasn't very diverse, um, and it was also obvious that there was a lot of work to be done, and you know people would, you would still get those comments from people about, oh, are you sitting in the right place, or oh, I think that you're in the wrong. No, I'm not in the wrong place. I'm the CEO of iOrbit, and little things like that where people come out with the biases and you think to yourself, oh, not this old, not again, sort of thing. But in terms of my experience, I had a good experience evolving and growing. But just like Shirley Chisholm said, Shirley Chisholm, I don't know if you know her, she's a
I
political
do know she was the first woman to
activist.
run for president.
That's right. And she said, if there's no room at the table, bring a folding chair. And actually, Athena, I brought a folding chair with me everywhere because sometimes I wasn't invited into the rooms. A lot of the time, I would find myself there and I would put the folding chair in that room and get a space. You understand what I mean? So
I understand exactly what you mean.
yeah.
Yeah.
So very often it wasn't like, oh, Louise, and don't get me wrong, I had great allies, and white allies as well, and people that saw that I was really trying and I was ambitious, and they were like, Louise, I'll introduce you to this, and I had a lot of support, people that were. But then there are other situations where I just put myself into the room where I may not otherwise have been invited, and again, that's all part of what you was talking about earlier. From the time you're born, it's like this great big effort that we have to make, where it's obvious that we don't get the same level of equality. So we have to fight more, we have to drive more, we have to be upfront more. And actually, as a people, I think in 2020, as part of the Black Lives Matter movement and George Floyd being, the absolute catalyst of saying enough's enough, it was like, we're tired. Yeah. As a people,
Oh, yeah.
as a people, we're tired and we just want equality. When we get up in the morning, we don't want to feel like we've got to charge our Duracell batteries any more longer than you have. Yeah.
What is iOrbit and when did you come up with the idea?
Okay, so the idea didn't derive from iOrbit. The idea derived from my first company called Virtual Lou. And that came from being at home as a single mum and realizing I can't do a 40-hour week and just go to work anywhere in London or out of London where I so choose, as I was used to. So I created the company to basically support other entrepreneurs and high street businesses with PA services. So I began, first of all, supporting businesses within my network that quickly grew. And I began supporting more sort of larger, smaller businesses with PA services, business development, and finance. That was back in 2013 when I had my son. So I more or less got into the thick of it straight away. Some may say it was a bit overzealous because I had a little baby, but I think at that time I had a real fire and burning desire and real drive actually to carry this vision and this dream forward of having my own business. I then didn't really have like a formal university degree, so just to add a little bit of even more responsibility on top of myself, I went to university and studied business, international business. So I mixing that all in with being a single mum as well, doing a degree and then having my own business. So I basically didn't sleep at all for like forever. Well, I haven't slept since 2013, and and then once I grew a reputation in my network for being a virtual PA, the London Olympics, where the London Olympic took place in the Queen Victoria Park in Stratford, there was a place there called Plexel, which is a tech city, tech hub, that was all being built, and I got the literature through the mail, through the post at home, and I actually, I we're going back to those books, Athena, that I spoke about earlier.
Yes.
I had read The Secret and I'd read lots of those self-development books. So I knew about the power of manifestation and the power of prayer. And I said, I'm going to have an office in that place. And I didn't have absolutely no idea how at the time. And I went down there and I spoke to them about the kind of business that I wanted to do. And I was then offered a contract. And then I thought, oh my God, now I've manifested it. What do I do now?
But just to be clear, you just went there and you said, "This
Yeah,
is what I do.
yeah,
I want to do it from here," and they were like, "Yeah, sure."
yeah. We had a conversation. We sat down, and I thought there's actually no way that I'm gonna get this. It's gonna kind of happen for me. But then I thought, you know what? Why not me? Why not me? So I began to manifest this, and then they called me back and said, well, Louise would like to offer you a space here to work in professional services amongst Barclays Bank, Hiscox Insurance, Kemp Little Law Firm, and some other really big names. And then I was like, oh, I don't know if I can swear on this show, but
You could swear. Oh, we've had all the words. No swear
hey,
word has not
shit!
been said.
What am I gonna do now? Whoa, this is bigger than me. And that moment there, all the films I watched, Pursuit of Happiness, all of them, is like a special moment in time where something actually feels bigger than you. And I thought, you know, I actually realized the power of what it is. My surname's Power, but yeah, what it is that I'm actually capable of. It was just this really electrifying, and I felt really alive at that time. And
And what was the offer? Was it office space? Was it like incubation for
so
your business?
yeah, no, it wasn't. Funny enough, you would expect that I was doing social entrepreneurship, so it would have been incubation, but actually no, it was office space. But the I guess the unique part about it was that I was going to be working with these very large corporates. uh,
Right.
and so it was quite unique to be offered that kind of situation with a company that just sort of came into formation. So I'd gone from working with high street businesses now to the tech industry. Yeah. So so now I'm working with startup and growth companies in the world of tech. And actually I had not really come from the world of tech, and you can imagine there's not really many black women in tech. I mean, you're not, you didn't see um anybody that looked like me in these spaces, right? And so it was quite unconventional. So I learned a lot about the world of tech in that time, that of being there, and a lot about you know what what it takes to grow a tech company. Um, so I then began employing other women to support these tech businesses with PA services and business development and project management. And the interesting part about it is that the tech, it worked hand in hand perfectly well, because the women that I employed were just like me. And so yeah, and I would say though that it wasn't easy, and having a child and starting a business, as you know, it's very, very difficult. But I do feel like it's exhilarating to know that you have to, oh yeah, you have to be willing to make sacrifices, right? You've got to be willing to make sacrifices. You're not going to get a salary, a conventional salary every month and things like that. But the thing that got me through and kept me on the ball was just having faith and determination in my outcome of what I wanted to do, establish myself as an entrepreneur, establish myself as a business professional, and prove that actually a black woman from the poorest borough in East London, that's had quite a colourful life, has just deserving of that seat in the corporate world with her own business as anyone else, you know.
Yeah, and it's important that we understand, like, we're not undeserving, and these spaces are just as much as for us as they are for anybody else.
What do you think about the word minority, Athena?
I've always hated it because we're the global majority.
Yes.
So I never liked the word minority. I understand that it's useful shorthand to describe discrimination because it tends to be um, the, the population that's in the minority that's oppressed. But in South Africa, South Africa is only about 9% white.
Yeah.
They're the minority there.
Yeah.
So it doesn't play into, in Kenya, it's the same in Zimbabwe. So the word minority doesn't really mean much to me. I'm a black person, I'm an African person, and I have a history. And minority just is makes it sound like people are doing you a favor by
Yeah.
allowing you to operate or prosper. And I'm glad you're starting to question the lexicon of race now, because people are starting to question the acronym BAME, which I'm like, finally, finally, especially because what it does is it draws a line and it says white people are on one side of the line and everyone who isn't white is on the other side of this line.
Yes.
And that nothing reinforces white superiority more than that. We are some kind of a baseline and you are all deviations of what people
Yes.
should be. And it's just bizarre. And I don't have anything to do with people who are from, Vietnam. I mean, I guess I do, but we're not from the same place. But yet you will employ someone from Vietnam and say, well, I've got a diverse workplace. Well, no one who looks like me is there. There
Yeah.
aren't any Indians there.
Yeah.
So, and it's a way for people to diminish you and your culture. So, no, what do you think of the word minority?
I feel the same. I've never liked it because, like you, I felt if we're the minority, then somebody else is the majority, and I don't like to be associated with that word. Really, to be honest, I know it's something that we've just let pass us by, but I know that I've got a few talks coming up about that very thing. Minority has been something that I can understand, like you said, if it's being used for the purpose of stats or something like that. But in terms of the everyday thing, call me by my name. Call me by my name. I think that's fair. You call someone by their name, or you say, you're preferably where you're from. You're a black person or whatever. But I don't think I'm minor to anybody. And I'd rather not be addressed as in that way at all. And I think there is something that needs to be done about it. And like you said, everybody that's non-black, including Irish Gypsy, including Asian, African, Caribbean, wherever you are, if you're not white, Anglo, then you are what they consider to be black and minority, or black Asian minority, however it is. Different people say it differently. So yeah, for me, not something that I'm and even more so, I think before I just let it, we just got on with it. But now I think we are putting it to question, and it's about time.
Yeah, it's about time. And like I said, there's only one minority in this world. That's white people. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like the population of Western Europe is, I couldn't even tell you what it is. It's probably hundreds of millions. But there's a billion people in India.
yeah,
In
yeah,
one country, there's a billion people. So how can you call anybody a minority? And I mean, there were people who philosophize and theorize that the aggression of kind of white powers over the years and centuries is because they're aware of this. So it's all about maintaining a kind of control through force because the numbers aren't there, and maintaining a population that's supposedly dwindling. Blah, blah. I don't know if any of that is true, but what I do know is that it's very misleading. If you watch, we all watch the news, we watch the media, we watch TV shows, you watch films. You just wouldn't think that the world is actually run by people, or you wouldn't think that white people hold the percentage of the world population that they do,
yeah,
because it's not reflected in the world. Like my whole life is I consume whiteness. We have white names, we have white religions, white cultures,
yeah,
but actually the billions of people in this world who follow a particular culture or create particular art or whatever, they're not white.
yeah,
There was a point at which I realized how not irrelevant, but how white presence on this planet is overstated. I realized at one point the biggest boy band in the world was Korean. All the sports stars who were any good at any kind of sport that I cared about were non-white. All the movies and all the TV shows I was watching were created by people who weren't white. The music I liked wasn't really created by white people. It's created by, and I just thought, oh my gosh, but you wouldn't know this to think about when you think about how the world is presented to us.
Yeah.
You know, you would think everything is invented by white people and that white people are at the center of like the cultural, social, and academic world, and it wasn't true. So I hate that. Yeah, I hate that word. Put the word, or put the word minority in the bin, or switch it round for it to mean white people. I'd love it. I would love that actually. I'd love it if minority referred to white people and majority referred, because that's the accurate thing.
Yeah.
The accurate thing is to say white. If you're going to bundle all non-white people under one umbrella, the
Yeah.
accurate thing would then be to say white people are the minority and we are the majority,
That,
right? If we're going to say that.
yeah. The funny. I mean, I laughed. I laughed actually because it just I'm laughing because I just know that those things just wouldn't happen. Does that make sense?
Of course it wouldn't.
Yeah.
It would be too much, you know, because it's not, when people use the language of minority, majority, and whatever, they're not talking about a literal minority, majority. They're saying theoretically it doesn't matter. There could be one of us and 1,000 of you. We're more powerful. That's
Yeah.
what they're saying.
But I do think, though, right, on a positive note, that, and I've just written a article actually, Athena. It's called "The Perfect Storm." So I'll probably be publishing that at some point out onto my LinkedIn or something. But I do think that there is something different about this uprising that is something different about this year to any other time, because I tell you what it is, and it just gives you a little bit of a preview into my actual article, because I think the coronavirus happening, and people no longer people no longer being dormant in their normal lives, had the time to feel, had the time to participate in conversation and understanding and empathy of what's going on. That mixed with the George Floyd death, because I don't think if George Floyd's death had happened any other time, he would have been another black man that has died at the hands of the police. But George Floyd's death happening at the time of the coronavirus, when everybody globally was affected by the lockdown, affected by, not driving, not traveling, not going to work, not socializing, and actually for the first time in their lives, for some of us actually, feeling isolation. I'd never been in isolation in my life. That encompasses real kinds of different emotions psychologically, and at that point we suddenly have time to see, oh my god, this is our world. Yeah. So I think there's something about the now that's different than before, because we've had George Floyd 100, 1,000, or maybe 1,000,000 times over, but what we haven't had is George Floyd and the coronavirus. And I think that is what makes this time round a bit different.
In many ways, that's just as sad, like it's just as sad. It's sad that we had to have a global pandemic. It's sad that somebody had to have their neck stood on for 9 minutes.
Yeah.
For people, we should be embarrassed and ashamed, really. But you know what? Like the minute you wake up is it's a good thing, even if you wake up late. You know, when you oversleep and it's like, I've overslept. Oh my God. And at least you're awake. At least you know you have to get out of your house really quickly and get to wherever it was you were scheduled to go. And that's how I feel about, like, and being anti-racist. Like, you're very, very late. That was a very long lie-in, but you're up now. So, wash your hair, go to the bathroom, brush your teeth, cream your skin, and get out and let's get to this destination that's like a little bit better. Before we wrap up, because we're going to have to wrap up soon, I just want to talk about, because you mentioned something earlier, I made a note of it, your conversations with your son.
Yeah.
About how smart he was. Because I obviously don't have conversations with my daughter because she's still a toddler. She's under 2. But I just didn't know kids were this smart. Like, they are so clever. We gave her an iPad and she'd be putting little like toddler games on it. And it's incredible watching her. Like, one day she won't be able to do something, and the next day it'll be like, well, I can do this now. This is boring. And it's like, oh, we paid £3 for that. That app cost me £3. You're bored of it already. Or just watching her put puzzles together. I mean, she still like eats grass. Don't get me wrong. Like, she's still a little toddler. How do you feel about that? Isn't it amazing just watching your kids just be intelligent? Like, how did they learn this?
Yeah, definitely. My son, like, he's 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 very aware of like worldly things. He's got green fingers as well. We live in
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, he likes to plant things. He likes to make things. He likes to build things. He loves Lego. And I've been able to, and I tell you what, I think what I've been able to realize as well, actually, about my son is what his real strengths are. I've had the time to see that actually he's creative. Anything
Right.
that he makes with his hands is what he enjoys. And I don't think I made the time to see that before.
Do you were you homeschooling and did you enjoy it?
Yes, I've been homeschooling. No, I haven't really enjoyed it much.
I wouldn't enjoy it. I don't. I'm trying to understand phonics just in preparation of like obviously teaching my daughter, and I'm like, I don't understand this stuff. You know, how is she supposed to? And that's just phonics. That's like people who don't know. That's how you teach kids how to read now. You don't use the letters, use the sounds. But
Yeah. I like the creative stuff, but you know, it's difficult to get. Can you imagine? Like he just doesn't. He's not motivated because he hasn't got, you know, his friends to speak to. It's mum again. It's almost like I think sometimes he must think, oh, it's not you again. It's me from morning till night. Oh no, now you've got another hat on. Oh, okay, you're not the mum, you're the teacher, and I think it's too much for them.
The thing that's I think the most impacted society and will have the longest impact in terms of time is the fact kids have lost about 6 months of school and they'll never get it back because homes aren't. It's hard enough to work from home. Having to learn from home, you know, you don't have the resources, you don't have the physical resources. So that's the one thing I think that if the government has to invest in, it's looking at how we look at the 6 or 7 months that kids lost of school and how they make up for it whilst providing a solution that's practical for teachers as well. Because some of the things that teachers were asked to do, well, teachers are asked to do unreasonable things anyway.
I know.
So it's going to be a very difficult start to the academic year, I think, for a lot of young people. But what would be good is that they'll probably look forward to going back to school, which is a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think they are because when it first started, my son was like, "Yes." But I noticed yesterday he was like, "I wouldn't mind going in for at least a few days." So yeah. I think they're all going to. I hope the government, and I'll say this out there to you, government, are going to stick to their word and pump as much money back into an education system in September as they say they're going to do, because all the children going back should have all of the provisions that they need for their education. That children shouldn't be pressurized when they get back or made to meet unrealistic expectations or anything like that. They need to have the support that they can get back to, you know, a comfortable level of education, you know, after missing so much.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, absolutely. The government do listen to this podcast. I have it on good authority. So yeah, good. They'll respond to you probably, and if not, we'll start a petition. On that note, I think we have to end sadly. We've gone over. I know. I could just chat about this all day. But I did tell you before we started the recording. I said to you that normally people come around and they get like a plate of plantain, whatever refreshments they want. And they get a bit of my hospitality basically, but I wasn't able to provide this, so you get a voucher. You can use that voucher. It's valid at any time. So you can pop round 3 a.m. with your company voucher, and I have to get up and I have to make you something, and then we have to sit down and we can reenact this all over again.
Okay,
so
I'm holding you to that.
Absolutely. Okay. Do hold me to it because I will forget. That's yours to thank you for keeping my company. Yeah, thank you. And also, like obviously people might want to use your services or find out a bit more about your journeys,
yes,
or like read your articles. What's the best place for people to find you?
Find me on LinkedIn. I say, yeah, Louise Power. I don't think there's many Black Louise Powers. The last time
Louise Power on LinkedIn, who's the CEO of iOrbit.
Who's the CEO
I think that's enough. And that's so professional because normally people go Twitter, Instagram, but you're like LinkedIn.
Yeah. Find me on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. I'm there. I'm there most days, and yeah, just just connect with me, and I'm happy to have a conversation, have a coffee, and let's talk.
All right, Louise, that sounds fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. Also, sorry, you can also catch me on my Instagram as well, the Power Hour, or Miss Power. Yes.
The Power Hour. You'll show the Power Hour. Yes, you've got to catch up with the Power Hour with Louise Power, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you. This has been so fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much.
So that was my friend Louise Power. Power by name, power by nature. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so cliched and corny. Forgive me. I was dying to say that throughout the whole podcast, and I'm saying it now, Louise. I'm sorry, but it's true. You know it. And if you've heard it your whole life, it's because it's true. You know, you've got your degree, started a business, a parent. It's a lot on your plate, and you're managing it all. And it's fantastic to see your success. And thank you again for coming on my podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're thinking of starting a business, I hope there was some advice in there that you found useful. What's really interesting about Louise's journey is a lot of people start businesses and it's like making something and selling something, but actually there's a huge business side in providing services, and we don't often see a lot of those stories being told. It tends to be people who made something and they got it onto the shelves in Sainsbury's, as opposed to people who sell professional services. So I really enjoyed listening to Louise's story, and I hope you found it useful too. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you liked it, you can tell a friend. Why not? Tell someone you like loads, tell someone you kind of like as an acquaintance, and then you'll become friends once you recommend this podcast. Guarantee it. Anyone you know a little bit, you're going to know them loads once you recommend this podcast to them, and you've got another friend, which is good. And there's loads of old episodes too for you to catch up on all your favourite podcasting platforms. I'm Athena Kablenyu. I'm sure you know that already. I'm a stand-up comedian, writer and broadcaster, and I'm on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Just search my name and you'll find me in those places. Thank you again for listening, and we'll catch up next time.